This is Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Off Topic is... our conclusion on Betty Crocker. In our first episode, we talked about Betty Crocker's origin from a puzzle at the Washburn Crosby Company and how she rose to be a household name in the first half of the 20th century. Today we finish the Betty Crocker story and also discuss some of her most famous creations on this episode of Off Topic. We're in 1948, and President Truman gives our gal Marjorie Husted, the one who was doing the Betty Crocker stuff, gives her the Woman of the Year award at the Women's National Press Club. She shared that award with 5 other women, so I guess she was 1/6 the Woman of the Year, so that seems kind of odd. Also seems very man-like, being like, we're going to have a Woman of the Year award. You're going to share it with 5 others.
Right. But there's 5 or 6 of us.
It takes it's 1948. It takes 6 women to make 1 man. Don't you know that? It's the exchange rate.
That's the exchange rate.
That's a man to woman exchange rate. 1950, in the hardcover Betty Crocker recipe book with pictures, the one that we all are familiar with, that one finally gets released. 950,000 copies in its initial run, and it sold for $2.95. Or you could get a deluxe edition for $3.95. The deluxe edition came with downloadable content and new skins for your Betty Crocker avatar, I believe.
New skins for your Betty Crocker avatar. That's awesome.
Yep.
Wait, when was this?
1950.
1950. I'm just curious how much it was. Was it $250?
$2.95 or $3.95 for the deluxe edition. That'd be $35 or $50 in today's money.
Oh man,
wondering.
You beat me.
And I know you are. Yeah. I always try to do the conversions just because it's fun.
Yeah, conversion rate. I mean, it's depressing, but also like, look at this.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. Also, you can actually find the OG editions on sale for around like $80 online if you wanted to get like a piece of history.
And conversion rate would actually match. So, with escalation. Yep, $100 in 1950 is $1,314.08 now.
Oh, this cookbook series has gone on to sell 75 million copies in total. And this puts it in the range of book sales along with the Da Vinci Code and Catcher in the Rye. Researching that, it's been theorized that Don Quixote has sold over 500 million copies of the book.
I wonder how many people claim they assassinated some important person because they read a Betty Crocker book.
They assassinated an important person?
Catcher in the Rye.
Ha! Okay.
Sorry, that was out of left field, my man. But Catcher in the Rye, I immediately went to assassinations.
They just read the Betty Crocker cookbook and they're like, must kill Elvis.
That's what happened on the toilet. He's like, yep. He's sitting there straining away, and someone walks in like, Betty Crocker made me do this.
Again, that's an off-topic truth fact that we're going with.
It's going forward. That is truth.
And the off-topic reality that we are building.
And you know what? I challenge you. Prove me wrong.
Exactly. You can't, and you won't.
No.
1950, and an embittered Marjorie Husted retires from General Mills. Why was she unhappy? Well, despite her being General Mills' biggest influence and salesperson they had by a wide margin, she was only making 25% of what the male salespeople were making, and they were contributing far, far less than Marjorie had done. She said, screw that, you're going to pay me 1/4, I'm leaving.
That's right.
Yeah, I know, right? In 1951, in a speech to the American Association of University Women, Husted said, quote unquote, management is dominated by men, and there's no indication of interest on the part of employers for change. Boy, howdy, was she right on that. Yeah, unfortunately. So, 1951 and 1952-ish, we get the Betty Crocker Star Matinee, which was a TV show starring Adelaide Howley as the new role of Betty Crocker. Adelaide didn't actually have one lick of professional cooking experience, but she did have a radio broadcasting experience and TV experience, so that's what landed her the gig. How to cook, didn't know how to be on TV. That's the important thing.
Yep.
By the time she took over the radio show part of the job, the radio show had a listening audience of around 3 million people. Yeah, that's actually not bad, as far as I can tell. And she would do the radio show and starred in the Betty Crocker TV show that was on CBS from 1950 through 1952. And she was also in the Betty Crocker Star Matinee on ABC, and also made guest appearances on the Burns and Allen comedy show with George Burns and Gracie Allen.
You know, when I think of George Burns, I can't think of him young. I always think of him as old as shit.
I'm pretty sure he came out of the womb as an old man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very old primate.
Yeah, right. Cigar and everything, cigar and bow tie.
Right.
Wah, Mom. Wah. Give me a nipple.
Why did it hurt so much pushing him out? He's got a lit cigar.
We knew this birthday was going to be special when cigarette smoke came out first. She just dilates and just like cigarette smoke, just starts cigar smoke, she's like, poof. The cigar tip is crowning. Just this lit cherry coming out first. Like,
Lord, it'd be cigar first.
Yep, it would be. Again, another off-topic true reality fact.
George Burns was born with a cigar lit.
With cigar lit. That mother had some fortitude in her to push that out. Anyways, Adelaide's run as Betty Crocker would go up until 1964 when General Mills would drop her in a rebranding effort. She would actually go on to finish her college education and teach English in Bremerton, Washington, where she would die at the age of 93 in 1998.
Pretty good run.
Fun fact there. Yeah, not bad. And this lady would actually be the last true Betty Crocker of note, as it was just kind of random actresses doing commercial spots as Betty Crocker from here on out. The radio show went out of fashion. The TV show went out of fashion. Nobody really cared about Betty Crocker anymore, outside of her boxed cake mixes.
I almost said, I can't believe people just sat around and listen to radio shows. I'm like, well, shit, what are we doing right now? What's a podcast?
Yep, that's literally just a radio show without commercials. Well, some of them have commercials actually now.
There is the benefit of we're not trapped in a room. It's like this giant ass hunk of
this giant 100-pound radio sitting in the middle of your room. The entire living room is built around the whole family. Just sits around the radio reading the newspaper.
I just hit a pothole. It's just things that do stuff in the home.
Your brain was straining like Elvis on the toilet.
Exactly. Before he was murdered by a Betty Crocker fan.
So also while I was doing this research, I came across a video interviewing Barbara Jo Davis, known as the Black Betty Crocker, because she was a black lady who worked in Betty Crocker kitchens from 68 through 88. She actually kind of had a couple of fun stories too that I figured I'd share. She was one of the people that actually worked on Hamburger Helper. But one thing she talked about is she worked in Betty Crocker test kitchens, where basically they would just, bake stuff around the clock and just test recipes and see what worked and what didn't. Well, apparently these were open air kitchens that were open to tourists. They would be leading tours around the Betty Crocker, the General Mills plant. Mm-hmm. And I guess you could literally walk right up to these test kitchens and just watch people cook, get right up in their face even sort of thing. And it was just so egregious to the point that the people taking tours literally were just well, this obviously isn't the real test kitchen. These are actors doing their thing. So people just watch and applaud as stuff was being cooked and made it really awkward for the cooks. Barbara was talking about one day she messed up and boiled over some molasses onto the stove and it caught fire, and all the cooks were panicking, and all the people on tour were ooh, performance art. Very nice, and started
That's
laughing
awesome.
and enjoying it. Yeah, and she's like, no, the kitchen's on fire, you idiots. And they're just ooh, very nice. They're really selling this fire thing. Yeah.
I'm so impressed.
Yeah, right, exactly. She was also in charge of writing some of the cookbook directions, too. And Betty Crocker, I'm not sure what year this actually happened. Sometime between 68 and 88, I guess. Probably earlier on, because someone sued Betty Crocker because the directions apparently said, warm up a can of condensed milk on the stove. And the dude apparently just took a unopened can and just put it in a pot and set it on the stove and cranked it on high, and the thing exploded and damaged his kitchen and sprayed stuff everywhere. So he was like, hey, I'm an idiot, so I'm going to sue. So if you ever think dumb lawsuits are a new thing, no, they've been around for a while.
I mean, this is the reason why I say don't shower with a hairdryer,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, those words are there because people did that stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. They even actually kind of did that on an Alf episode, too, if I remember correctly.
An Alf episode? I mean,
yeah.
You know what? They were I'm sure they were trying to find.
No, there was an episode where Alf was trying to make a jacuzzi in their bathtub with an electric mixer. And the joke was he got electrocuted, and some kid actually tried that in real life and got electrocuted, and they had to go back and edit the episode.
Oh, that's stupid.
Check out our Alf episode on Off Topic, because we talked about this.
Beavis and Butthead. I remember a big controversy. Beavis, they lit their house on fire or something. It's
Beavis
and Butthead, they're poisoning our kids.
Turn them into arsons, firebugs.
Look at Alf. What are you doing?
Yep, exactly. But Alf was an offensive cartoon. He was a cute puppet. You can't be mad at cute puppets.
That's also true. He's like, come on, kids, worship Satan. It's puppet.
Also, Barbara was working on the writing recipes for the Betty Crocker cookbook. There's part where they had to punch holes in the top of a cake or a pie crust, and they used the term prick the pie crust several times, and apparently management came back. He's like, you cannot use the word prick in any of our recipes because people will think of penis immediately. She's like, oh, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, right, I know. It is so dumb. That's kind of actually more or less the story of the Betty Crocker kitchens. I got some little other fun facts too. One thing I noticed too, old cake commercials back from like in the 50s and 60s, people ate cake with their hands, not with a fork. Literally, all these commercials I've seen is people like dudes in business suits with just like this giant slice of cake in their hand, just eating it straight out of their hand, or little kids doing it, being like, "Oh, this cake is deliciously moist. Ooh, I'm eating it with my bare hand." It's very strange to see people eating cake with their hands.
That is strange. I mean,
yeah. Go check these other commercials. Literally, they're just reaching over, grabbing cake out the pan, just like eating it in their hand, just like, "Oh, look, I got a fistful of cake." Brr. Yeah, I don't know. It's odd.
I don't know. I'm having trouble reconciling that.
Yeah, I'll send you some of the commercials later because it's just dudes and like kids. It's always the guys eating cake too. I don't recall ever seeing a woman eating cake in these commercials I was seeing.
Well,
it's a woman's place to cook, not to eat.
Right. She's supposed to make the cake, then go and sit down in the corner while the rest of the family eats the cake.
Yep, exactly. And watch and then just compliment them the entire time until they're needed again.
Right.
So, here's a few things that the Betty Crocker kitchen has brought us over the years that we didn't have before. Bisquick, the pre-made biscuit powder. So, the story behind this is a Betty Crocker salesman ate some delicious biscuits while on a train trip in 1930. He went to compliment the chef, and the chef told him his secret. He was like, "Hey, how these biscuits are so great, I pre-make all the biscuit mix, and then I keep it on ice for this train trip, and basically, that way all the like lard and shortening and stuff doesn't melt down, and that way it stays super fresh, and that way my biscuits taste delicious. The secret is pre-made biscuit mix." And the salesman was like, "Fascinating," and he promptly went back to Betty Crocker and stole that idea.
Of course.
But but they made it so you didn't have to refrigerate it, however. So instead of using like a lard and shortening, they just used good old hydrogenated oil in it.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
And no credit went to the guy. They was like,
nope. Other than this like side footnotes you're gonna find on like the back pages of the Betty Crocker website, where it's like, "Oh yeah, this recipe was kind of stolen," kind of, quote unquote, or as they would say, perfected, probably.
There you go.
We didn't steal this. We refined his idea.
This mad bastard wanted to refrigerate it.
We jump to the early 1970s. This is kind of interesting. And anchovies in South America are tired of being eaten. They say screw this, and they migrate elsewhere. And all of a sudden, South America does not have anchovies to farm. And what does this do? It has a ripple effect of beef prices soaring in America. Why? Because anchovies, I guess, were a big part of animal feed in South America, and all those anchovies led to higher prices in animal feed. So, next you know, beef prices skyrocket in America. And in order to make Americans make their ground beef last longer, Betty Crocker releases Hamburger Helper, and poor people mealtime would be changed forever. The original Hamburger Helper came out in 1971, and its flavors included beef noodle, potato stroganoff, hash, rice oriental, and chili tomato. And these flavors were picked due to them being familiar to American families at the time.
And thus was born the anthropomorphic hand that would come out and tempt your children to eat Hamburger Helper.
That actually leads me right into my next statement, because also, 1979, a short film called Attack of the Helping Hand is released. It's about a woman making Hamburger Helper who gets attacked by the Hamburger Helper glove comes to life. It is 6 minutes long and features the talents of Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell in it. It's available on YouTube.
Attack
of the Helping Hand.
There you go.
Starring Sam Raimi and has Bruce Campbell doing cinematography on it, I believe.
Let me help you along the way to your demise.
I will send you a clip of that later. Also, that led me to find Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi doing the short film called The Blind Waiter, which was both genius and awful at the same time. Picture like the most Jerry Lewis wackadoo kind of like humor you've ever seen. Just like 15 minutes of that straight. Basically, Bruce Campbell plays a waiter who's blind, trying to serve people and doing an awful job, like pouring hot coffee in people's laps instead of their cup kind of stuff. Yeah. Hilarity ensues. I'll send you a copy later.
Does it wear us welcome, though?
I kept wanting to turn it off, but I couldn't just because I wanted to see what happened next.
There you go.
It also has the preliminary, remember in, what was that, Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness, or Ash has to scrape his face off the flat top because it's like burned onto it. It's got that joke in it. The very early version of that joke. Yeah. So, anyways, there you go. Bruce Campbell, his career might have to do with Hamburger Helper.
At least it helped it along. I like Bruce Campbell. He does, I've seen him on a bunch of stuff, and he's not my favorite actor, but I definitely appreciate, when he's there, I appreciate him.
He does his roles well.
He really does.
I mean, he's always kind of just playing Bruce Campbell, but he does it really well, though. So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man, there was one movie, like, not many people saw that I really liked him, man. He was in old folks' home, and he was like Elvis. And he
Hotep?
Yes. Yeah. Like he swapped out with a lookalike with the intention of going back, but the lookalike died, and so he was fucked. He's like, damn it.
Yeah, nobody has seen that. I haven't seen it, but I have heard it's actually pretty all right.
I have seen it. It is pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I've heard it's different, and you got to be like, yeah, pretty good, as in.
It's enjoyable. I mean, he's old. Him and this dude, they like are roommates, and this Bohotep being this like mummy thing that's going around and sucking the life out of old people. But because they're old people, people naturally just assume it's old age taking them. So no one thinks of anything. But they're like, no, there is this monster going around killing people, and they have to fight him and that old man trying to fight it. So
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It is by no like. It will win 0 awards, but it is pretty good.
It's not going to change my life forever, but it will make me go, that was worth it.
There's one thing that that kind of stands out that I hate, like that pops in my head when I think of Old Folks Home. It's like, so apparently he had like an issue with his junk, and so the nurse had to come and like rub cream on there for him, and it wasn't sexy. It was like very, and since he couldn't get up anyway, it was just really just like her doing something. Well, because of all the stuff's going on, I guess the adrenaline started pumping, and so she's applying it, and it works. And she gives him a look. He's like, "Will you help me with this?" And she's like, "No," and she just leaves.
She's like, "I'm a nurse, not a prostitute."
Yeah, she's kind of gives him the side eye, like, "No, that's not happening."
Yeah, no. That's a very realistic exchange right there. I would imagine.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, you," and left.
1983, and General Mills releases Fruit Roll-Ups under the Betty Crocker label, and that means me and you are older than Fruit Roll-Ups, Nate. Let that sink in for a moment.
I actually get bummed out how many things I'm older than. Like, older.
You're older than ESPN also, and CNN, I think. Take that. Yeah. The story behind Fruit Roll-Ups was early 1900s, and a Syrian immigrant to New York named George Shaloub was locally famous for selling pieces of apricot leather from his store. In 1940s, his grandson Louis decided to individually wrap these pieces and distribute them and call it Joré. And this is basically the original fruit roll-up. And they basically had a corner on this market until the early 70s when a trade magazine did a story of the company and detailed how the fruit leather was made. Suddenly, every company in the world was trying their hand at making it, and Betty Crocker went into battle with the strategic might of General Mills and won the fruit leather wars of the 1980s. That's how we got fruit roll-ups. They stole it off a Syrian immigrant.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
I was never big in the fruit roll-ups. I never really got them as a kid, and I don't know, just I guess because I never got them as a kid, I just never really cared about them. So I might have had like maybe like 2 or 3 fruit roll-ups my entire life, and I don't know, maybe I'm missing out.
I always quote unquote liked them because I never got them. But now that you mentioned, I don't know if I actually do really like fruit roll-ups that much.
Yeah, I mean, like when I do happen to see commercials, it's like, oh yeah, those exist.
Yeah, I do know if people make homemade fruit roll-ups, those can be pretty bomb. Like made with actual, like real fruit and stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. I don't see that commercials nowadays because I mean, let's see. Well, we had YouTube TV for a minute, so the kids had to sit through commercials. But the big difference between the commercials now and the commercials then, commercials now in the top left of the corner, they're like, there's 4 commercials, you're in commercial 1. So it's like a little timer. It actually had sometimes even a timer like, okay, this commercial is a minute. And so it's like,
okay. I've seen on a little bar across the bottom. Yeah, if you know it's only gonna be like a minute or 90 or 90 seconds or whatever, it's like, well, I can sit through it, I guess.
Yeah. And then I used to have something through YouTube until you, like a fucking crack dealer, it's like, let me give you a taste of YouTube Premium. And so I started doing YouTube Premium. I'm like, I can't go back. I cannot. I watch YouTube. Sometimes I'll click a link in Google and it'll send me to not my YouTube account. It'll send me to another YouTube because I have like several Google accounts. And it's like, I'll start off with a commercial. I'm like, no, damn it.
This is not at all. Yeah, that. Also, I'll do that thing too where I send like a lot of people YouTube videos like, watch this. And I realize, oh, wait, they don't have like YouTube Premium. They might have to sit through a bunch of commercials for this.
Yeah. The worst is when you send them like a trailer for something, or it's like, I'm going to send you a movie trailer. And they get there. You're basically sending a commercial. And they watch a commercial before they watch the commercial.
Right. Here, watch this movie trailer before you watch a movie trailer.
I mean, that annoys me, but it's still, like I've said before, nothing annoys me nearly as much as when nowadays you go to see a commercial and they show you the little mini clip. Like they show you the best part of the commercial before the commercial actually starts, or I should trailer. Here's like literally 4 or 5 seconds of the best part of what you're about to watch, and now you can watch the whole thing. It's like,
Here's that giant building explosion that you're waiting to see at the very beginning of the trailer, and now you got to watch the rest of the trailer.
and I get why they're doing that. It's because nowadays you need to grab people's attention in the first few seconds, or they're going to swipe.
Yeah.
And I swipe too. I'm guilty. I am one of those people. And I'm like, nope, nope, nope. So I get why they're doing it, but as someone who's actually interested in wanting to watch that video, it is highly irritating to like basically get a spoiler for the next 2 minutes.
We'll call this Nate's Quandary.
Nate's Quandary, yes.
Yes.
Because grind my gears is taken.
Yep. It is something to get your gears grinded over or grounded over.
It is. So frustrating. Or even like, I want to watch a clip of a show. Like, oh, not necessarily want to. Like, or TikTok's like, look, here's a clip of a show you might like. This clip is like 3 minutes long, and it starts off with the thing, like the whole clip about like, here's the most important part of this clip. Now watch the clip. Like,
Yep. I have seen interviews with like directors and producers and stuff who are very unhappy with the way that the trailers get cut for their movies because it'll like literally give up the most important scenes or like spoil or put spoilers in there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I've seen directors be like, they literally destroyed my movie with that trailer. They ruined it. They gave away all the surprises. It's awful.
That's been a problem for a while though, because if you think about Terminator 2, in Terminator 2, that movie is shot. You are not supposed to know Arnold Schwarzenegger is the good guy until the hallway scene.
Yep.
When he shows up and you got Edward Furlong. He's running away like, oh no, there's a cop after me. And he sees this Terminator and the guy, he pulls the gun out, and you're supposed to have a moment of like, oh shit, it's fucked.
Yeah.
And then he saves him. And that's oh my God, things are different. But all the marketing beforehand, I walked in that movie theater knowing.
Yeah, it was like, because they showed like that buddy scene where it's like, and now he's got a Terminator friend.
Yeah, right. I saw a movie 3 times in the theater when it came out. I was only a kid too, all by myself. Yeah, it's like, I love that movie.
That was a good movie. And I remember too when I saw that was one of the few movies I actually got to see in a theater. And then when I saw it on tape, the tape version actually had some scenes cut out from the movie theater version that I saw too, which is kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, there was that Linda Carter scene where
the one thing I was remembering was the scene where they have to pull the chip out of the Terminator's brain to reset it for some reason. And Linda Carter grabs a hammer and she's like, we're taking this thing out now that it's like, he's like, no, this is a good one. Yeah, that was in the movie theaters, but it wasn't like in the VHS release at first, if I recall.
I think
that scene you're thinking of.
I don't know. Was
it the opposite?
Yeah, that's exactly the scene I was talking about, but no, it was not in the theaters, but it was.
Oh, okay, it was on the VHS. Oh, okay, cool. Okay, I got it backwards. But yeah, I do remember it being like, I don't remember this scene before.
Right, or they're supposed to be like, and this wasn't even on the VHS tape. This is like later on where they're like, look at these cut scenes. You were supposed to see the T-1000 starting to kind of break down, like at the very end, when they're in the all the construction and stuff. You see him starting to kind of lose control over his shape-shifting abilities. Which doesn't, I guess they cut it out because it doesn't even fucking matter. Like, yeah, he started to break down his shape-shifting abilities, but he got thrown in lava. So him losing control over his shape-shifting abilities meant nothing.
I assume he was just losing control of his shape-shifting abilities because he got thrown in lava. I didn't pay that close of attention.
Well, I'm talking about beforehand. Like, he's walking around and he grabs, like, I mean, it's subtle, but he's walking through the stuff looking for him, and he holds a handrail, and his hand, like, basically becomes part of the handrail, and he just kind of, like, rip it off. And as he's walking, his foot starts taking the form of, like, whatever's on the floor. It's very subtle, but yeah, in the end, I can see why.
But that's because it was just like so hot in the foundry that his like skin,
something like that,
quote unquote, metal was like melting because he's made of gallium or whatever.
Yeah. It was like they're subtly kind of hinting like, oh, he started to break down, and yeah, it like I said, in the end, it did. I see why they cut it out. It's still kind of a cool addition.
Been cooler if he completely broke down and then he just like turned into this pool of mercury, and then they could just carry him around in a little like mason jar and be like, look at my little Terminator.
I made a Terminator.
Yay.
That movie was really good.
It was. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Possibly the best sequel ever made.
Yeah, but I don't know, but the best. There are very few movies that are surpass their originals. Terminator 2 is definitely one of them. Empire Strikes Back is another one.
Yep. Yeah, that one might be better sequel. Well, who knows?
No, I mean, everyone's free to think their own, but in my humble opinion, Empire Strikes Back is on every level a superior movie to Star Wars. Oh
yeah, well no, my thought was is it that much more superior to Star Wars as Terminator 2 was to Terminator 1? I was just thinking the gap in superiority.
You got me
between the
there.
two.
I'll give you that.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. Yeah, because Terminator 1 is really good, but Terminator 2 is
It
so
was.
much better.
Yeah, it is. And Star Wars, the original Star Wars was.
It was good.
It was good.
Great. Yeah, I mean,
I mean, it's enjoyable. Is it technically a good movie? Eh.
You definitely have hits and misses.
Yeah.
And especially like the lightsaber scene at the end. It is what it is. And because back then they were thinking two old fencers, like it's mentally a mental game where they're lightly touching you. I mean, that lightsaber battle with Obi-Wan and Darth Vader in the original was shit. Let's just call it as it is. The guy playing Darth Vader couldn't see, and you had Alec Guinness, who was old as hell. I mean,
and just didn't care at this point.
Yeah, he was doing this movie. He's like, I need money. It makes sense. I really wish. I know we talked about this before, like the fan battle between Vader and Obi-Wan is very good. I can't remember the name of it, but it's whatever. And so they can do better now. I kind of get why they don't, because they want to preserve it, but it's like, come on, you have fucked with the Star Wars original trilogy so much. Why not throw that in there? You gave us crappy
messing around, because it would be kind of weird though, like Alec Guinness acting like an 85-year-old man through 90% of the movie, and at the very end becoming a super ninja flying through the air and jumping off walls and stuff. I mean, I guess you could just be like, well, that's just like
Count Dooku. They did that with him.
Yeah, but I guess he did kind of shuffle around like an old man throughout most of the thing, but I don't know, he didn't seem so, I don't know, he didn't seem quite as helpless as like Obi-Wan did, quote unquote.
Obi-Wan didn't really seem that helpless. I mean, he wasn't like super frail. He showed some abilities.
I guess he's more unwilling to fight, I guess would be a better term.
Yeah, he's unwilling to fight because he did that whole catwalk thing. He snuck in. I mean, again, like, it wasn't like he was jumping from platform to platform.
And Count Dooku just always seemed ready to fight at a drop of a hat if he wanted to.
Yeah. And man, Count Dooku, I have grown to like him as a character after the Disney Plus show that came out, kind of gave him a backstory. Because didn't dislike Count Dooku. I just didn't give a shit about him. And
his name is too close to Dookie for you.
Right. No, well, not just that. It was just dumb. Ha. Yeah. He showed up. He's like, I'm menacing, and then he got killed. And but like when they gave him kind of a backstory, you start to see, oh, okay, I can kind of. They show how he fell. It made more sense. But that's the thing. Like, how much leeway do you give? Because a movie should be able to stand by itself. You shouldn't have to rely on like series to fill out these characters.
Yeah, this is true.
Like Anakin. I like Anakin a lot more than I did from this. I mean, I like Darth Vader, but Anakin I can kind of, I guess. But after the Clone Wars and all the stuff, and even especially the most recent, like Ahsoka, I mean, they've really flushed him out to now. It's like, oh, okay, he's awesome. But he wasn't awesome at the time.
And now when you hear that how he hates sand speech, you just tear up and you're like, I get it, man. I finally get it.
Still shit. No, that is George Lucas and he's never spoken to a woman before.
George Lucas writes some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard.
There was actually a great, like, in the those comic book, Tad and Bink. Have you heard of that? I know you've heard of it because I showed it to you before, but that was way back in the day. But Tad and Bink is a comedic look at two side characters going through the Star Wars story. And as kids, they ran into Anakin. And so, like, he's 12 years old feeding Anakin lines to give to Padme. That's why he sounds like some kid trying to talk to a girl. Because he's literally being fed, like Roxanne. He's literally being fed lines from a kid to a girl.
Roxanne? Wasn't that the movie with Steve Martin?
Yeah.
I never saw that. Based off Cyrano de Bergerac.
Which was also based on an older black and white movie. That scene where this guy falls in love with a girl and he is in the bushes feeding him lines.
Yeah, because the one dude. Yeah, because it's a romantic dude with a giant nose who's ugly kind of thing. And Cyrano de Bergerac. That's the name of the original story on that.
I had no idea, so you knew more about it. I came out with Roxanne, you got all fancy and came out the original.
Yep. Roxanne is based off of Cyrano de Bergerac, which I don't know how old that story is, but it goes back a little ways, I think.
I tip my hat to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I know some of the weirdest dumb things you'll ever know. I like to pride myself on the fact I will say something super intelligent followed by one of the dumbest things you'll ever hear, and then follow it right back up with something super intelligent again, and just take you on a wild ride. Oh yeah, back to Betty Crocker. A couple of last few things to round up that they invented. They invented Dunkaroos, fruit by the foot, fruit gushers. And that's pretty much it for the weird things that we eat day to day or see day to day. Also, Dunkaroos, I didn't even get to try those until I was in my 30s. Bad.
I don't think I've ever had them.
I mainly remember the commercials, Dunkaroos. How do you dunk your Dunkaroos?
Isn't that a
Dunkaroos.
cartoon? Isn't that
Yeah, there's like
obviously a
little,
kangaroo?
yeah. And for some reason, all I can picture is Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life when I'm thinking of that commercial.
Oh yeah, you should.
I should.
That makes perfect sense.
It does. Well, kangaroos, Australia, dingoes, didgeridoos.
And man, that show was so fucked up. Like he worked at a sex lion operation, and they never said it out loud. But if you look at like the stuff around him and what like the implications,
Yeah,
dude worked
the
for a sex
implications.
lion. Like I can't believe what they got away with in the '90s. Like I love it. Don't get me wrong, but man,
Right. I get a feel like 90s might have been like golden era for cartoons because, like the higher ups are just like, it's cartoons. It's obviously kid stuff. We don't need to keep an eye on them. They'll censor themselves or something like that. And they were aware a bunch of like pervy 40-year-olds were doing cartoons.
I love it. I like this again. The things they get away with then, they can't get away with now. I mean, but then again, I don't know. It's a different. You can put whatever you want on YouTube. So
Yeah, this is true. Well, within reason. You might get demonetized. They probably won't take it down, but you'll get demonetized. But then again, if you're not monetized in the first place, who really cares?
yeah, I mean, if you just put it out there just for shits and giggles, it doesn't really matter if it's demonetized or not.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of people putting out Steamboat Willie stuff for shits and giggles all of a sudden. Although, I was just this morning reading an article by the guy who did that Winnie the Pooh horror movie that came out like right after the
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh thing. Yeah,
yeah, before that copyright went up. And the dude who directed that movie said he's not even going to touch a Steamboat Willie thing because there's just too many fine details in what you can and can't do. Like, you cannot have Mickey wearing gloves, I guess, at all if you're going to do the Steamboat Willie thing, and he can't have red shorts, I don't think. Or any
I think
color
they're
about
like be very hyper specific. Only this one.
Yeah, you have to you really got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, apparently Disney will come after you hard and heavy. So he's
Disney,
like, I'm not even going to touch that. He's like,
Disney
the Winnie the Pooh
suing.
one. Oh, they do. But you kind of got to, though, when you're that size of a company, sort of like Nintendo. I mean, you got so much wrapped up in your characters, you kind of got to.
They do, but from what I understand, they do tend to like go a little too far sometimes. Like, oh,
Yeah.
come on. That's
We're going to make an example of you.
yeah. And it's sometimes it's like, oh, come on, guys, back off.
Yeah.
Little Sally didn't know she was doing. She thought she was making something cute. Like
in some cases, sometimes these homemade things will actually like fuel the fire for some of your characters to make a resurgence.
that's exactly right. Like sometimes you just sit back and just let them do it. I mean,
Like, hey, somebody found this old obscure Disney character from the '60s and brought them back to life, and now that's one of our biggest things.
even George Lucas with Star Wars, like he still like he was definitely of the mind like don't make money off this, but he allowed people to post whatever they want Star Wars wise, just as long
there's some good fan films out there and stuff.
Just as long as they weren't like selling tickets and making money off it.
Yeah, or say, this is an officially licensed thing.
Right.
George Lucas approved.
I've seen some pretty badass like Darth Vader stuff that people made, and saw a really badass Darth Maul one. There's been some really good fan films out there that again, it's just people for the love of the game. They made it.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I hated the most recent Star Wars movie. What was it? The Return of the Jedi or whatever it was, Last Jedi.
Not Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, Return of the Jedi was a third.
It wasn't that one last
Rise of the Skywalker?
Rise of the Skywalker.
There we go. Yeah.
There are so many reasons to hate that fucking movie.
Well, part of the reason I really hated it too is because like the day before I watched it, I watched a bunch of Star Wars fan films, and some of those fan films were noticeably better on their writing, and even some of the special effects were better on those fan films. It's like they told a better story in a half an hour on YouTube than that entire movie did in 2 hours or whatever it was.
Yeah, yep. Sure enough. I mean, it's so infuriating too. It's like, oh man, like
you guys have the budget of the gods and you put out crap. How is this possible?
I almost feel like Obi-Wan screaming at these people, like screaming at Lucas, "You were the chosen one."
Yeah, exactly.
You were supposed to make better movies, not dog shit.
Yeah, we're supposed to move forward, not backwards, not ever spinning in a circle.
Yeah, I think they're making a new one. I think, and I need. Now I might be talking about my ass because these are articles I haven't read, but I saw the title of the article and then moved on. But I think they're making another Star Wars.
The best kind of research you could possibly do. Headline research. Yeah.
Hey, at least I had the decency to announce it before.
This is true.
But I think Daisy Ridley is like reprising her role. I think after she said she wouldn't. But I mean, and the thing is, I didn't dislike Rey. Like let me know, I am super cool with female Jedi, and like there are like Ahsoka is amazing, and there's a lot of times just you can't. No one even told her she had powers, and she's mind controlling a stormtrooper to let her go, and she's dealing with a dude who's like, And they're like, oh, but she's so powerful in the Force. Fair. Okay, I'll give you a grant. Fine. But then she I think actually I'm going back into the first movie, not the last one. But then she fights Kylo Ren toe to toe, and you can say, oh, he was wounded, but he's still trained by Luke Skywalker, trained by big ugly motherfucker, and then like I don't know, it just and then the last one, she just so many problems. And then again, as a Star Wars lover, and again, I'm not crazy, like I don't know every in and out, but you start with the Sith stuff. Like, why the whole thing about the Sith stuff is like there's one master, one apprentice. Now there was Sith absolutely way back in the day in the old Republic where there was a lot of them, but they all got wiped out by Darth Bane, and that was kind of like I don't know, like where did all the Sith people come from? Where did they get the manpower to build those ships? And if they like, how did all those people get through? I mean, they made it seem like getting through that large thing was a big deal. The whole movie was about like, let's find the secret map to get there. And they almost die, go through the storm, but somehow in a span of like 30 minutes, a whole armada comes out of nowhere. They all just traverse it with no problem. I don't know. I'm gonna stop now. Stop. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Star Wars movies are best if you don't think about them past the initial. Oh, look, flashing lights, neat.
It's all good. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Deep breaths, Nate. Deep breaths. It'll be okay. Calm and serenity. Calm and serenity. Breathe deep and relax. So, there you go. There's a history of Betty Crocker and Star Wars. What does Betty Crocker think of Star Wars? Who knows?
Right. But beware. Like, if Star Wars comes up, Nathan will not shut the fuck up.
Ha! He has points to talk about and points to make. And he will not be silenced.
And he is highly upset about certain things.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes. Ooze.